Today we're going to cover the use of a Bean EHP System 5. System 5 is able to handle low profile tires safely and efficiently. Alright, so we are going to cover the functions of this, how to dismount and mount a low profile tire. The foot pedals in the front. The first pedal operates the tilting head, which increases the efficiency because it's one less step that you have to perform. Pushing it again will cause the head to tilt back. The second pedal operates the locking jaws. The locking jaws can lock on the inside of a wheel or over the lip of the wheel. On a steel wheel, we'll lock it to the inside. However, on a aluminum wheel, in order to prevent damage to the inside coating, we always lock it over the flange or the lip of the wheel. It is a two-position pedal. If I push down on it, it will cause them to open. If I push down on it again, it will then cause them to close. In order to size it so it will fit over the lip of a rim, it also has a feature that will allow us to stop it at any point while we're bringing it in. So we can go ahead and size it so it fits the wheel that we're working on more easily without having to guess. The next pedal operates the bead raking shovel. Pushing down on it, fold it in, and breaks the bead off of the rim. And the last pedal rotates the table. The next thing we have is what's called the extra man or the assist, and that's these components here. These help push down on the tire while you are operating the machine. And it has a lever that operates it. Now the lever is pressure sensitive, so if I barely touch it, it'll just go up slowly. The more I push it, the faster it will work. On the head, we can have different adapters that we can put on. This adapter is used to push down on the rim to help seat it while I'm locking the jaws, and it also is used to help a safety measure while inflating a tire. We also have the assist arm, which will allow us to pick up on the tire when we go to break the inner or to remove the inner bead off of the rim. And the last thing we have is the bead breaker, and this allows us to break the bead while it's on the turntable. This is good when cars have tire pressure sensors. We can use this to break the top bead and reduce the chance of damaging the valve stem or the sensor itself. The next thing we have is on the bottom side, and on the bottom we have the two pressure or the inflator, two-step inflator. The first step, pushing it part way down, will blow the air through the hose, and pushing it all the way down will blow air through these jets here to help seat or inflate the tire. Now typically we only use that if we are inside mounting a wheel. If we're doing the outside mount, we don't use that step, but it sounds something like. The next thing we have is on the tilting head. So we'll go ahead and bring the head forward. And on the head we have this valve. And this valve will allow us to move the head in, or I should say up or down. So if we grab this thing, let me get, got it stuck with it. All right, now let's try that again. When we push it towards us, it will bring the arm down. That helps it set it on the rim. It makes it a little faster. If we go the opposite direction, the head will move back up. And if we push it all the way in, it will lock it. So forward is the locked position. pulling it towards you like a trigger on an impact gun will cause the head to move up or to move down, depending on which way you push it. So those are all the different parts of the machine. So we are now going to cover using it. First thing we want to do is go ahead and remove the valve core. Using the removing the valve core, we're going to use a valve core tool. And the valve core tool, take the cap off. Do not lose the cap. You will need that. The valve core tool has a slot in it. The valve core has a slot in it. So then you will place it on there and unscrew it. Make sure you hold on to it, otherwise it will fly out and you will lose it and you will need that out. And then go ahead and let all the air out. Once we've let the air out, the next thing we want to do is remove any wheel weights that are on the wheel. So we're going to look here, we see there's no wheel weights on the outside. We'll go ahead and flip the tire over. Careful not to damage it on the jaws. And then we have a wheel weight right here that we're going to go ahead and remove. We use what's called a wheel weight hammer. The wheel weight hammer has a hook and a flat area, and then of course the hammer part, that's for putting the weights on, which we'll cover when we do balancing. The hook fits into the top edge of the weight, and then you'll place the flat bar against the front edge of the weight here. So you'll place it with the hook like so, the front edge like so, then grab it like you would a pair of pliers and pull it towards the center of the wheel. And it will go ahead and pop the wheel weight off. Next, if it has a center cap, go ahead and remove the center cap. Most of them just pop out. Some of them are screwed in, so you'd have to unscrew them. This one just pops out, so I'll give it a little tap. And make sure you take care of this. Don't scratch it or damage it. The customer will get kind of upset at you. So make sure you take care of that. We're next going to break the bead, and we're going to break the inside bead with the bead breaker, and then we're going to break the top bead with the bead breaking arm. So we're going to go ahead and grab it with one hand and place the shovel up against the edge of the rim. And then we're going to go ahead and depress the pedal while we guide the shovel head. Make sure you do not catch the rim. Once we've broken one side, we're going to rotate the wheel 180 degrees, and we're going to do the same thing to the other side of the wheel. I now have the bead broken. Now that we've broken the inner bead, we're going to go ahead and lock the rim into the table. First, we need to size the jaws so that they match the outside of the lip. So we're going to go ahead and depress the pedal. Bring the head or the jaws all the way out. And then you can use a tape measure to determine the diameter of the wheel. And we're going to go ahead and get it close. Sometimes it gets a little sticky. Why it's not locking, I don't know. There we go. Sometimes they get a little finicky. And we'll go ahead and set the rim down on the jaws. If you need to bring them in a little bit farther, go ahead and do that. Then we're going to use the extra man arm with the centering adapter to push down on the rim to help us lock the jaws around the outside lip of the rim. Like so. Then I'm going to go ahead and release the lock the rest of the way. And then I'm going to feel to make sure that the hooks have actually hooked the rim. If you skip this step and the rim is not centered on it, it'll spin in an oval, and then that can seriously damage the rim later. Once we know it's in the right position, we'll go ahead and lift the arm out of the way. And then we're ready to break the bead. So we are going to use the bead breaker. It's best to tilt the head out of the way when you're doing this. Gives you a little bit more room to work. And we're going to bring the arm in and then set it on the edge where the rim meets the tire. Once you have it set, go ahead and lock this. This adjustment will tilt it, so if you need a different angle, you can turn this knob, and this knob will turn and change the angle of the head itself so we can get a better bite. So if you need to do that adjustment, then you can go ahead and turn this knob, and you can see how it changes the angle of the head. Then you're going to rotate the table while pushing this arm down by using this knob. And we are going to rotate and push down. Be careful when you get to the valve stem. Then go down more after the valve stem, and you can see how it's pushing the bead off of the rim. And once I go all the way around, I'm going to go ahead and stop before I get to the valve stem, and that way I don't take a chance of damaging it. You can see that it is broken free. Now I'll go ahead and lift this head out of the way, and I will push the bead breaker arm back into its home. At this point, I can remove my centering adapter and tilt the head forward. Once I have the head tilted forward, this is called the duck. This is the tail of the duck. This is the head of the duck. So later on, we're going to talk about mounting the tire. We're going to say you're going to put the bead of the tire over the tail and under the head. That's what we're talking about. So now we're going to set this up against the edge of the rim. But first, we're going to move the valve stem so that it is away from the duck. So we're going to go ahead and rotate the table and put the valve stem over on this side somewhere. Then I'm going to use the lever, and I am going to push in halfway, and that's going to bring the head down. If I need to, go ahead and push it till it sits on the rim, and then you're going to lock it by pushing it all the way in. When you lock it, it's going to bring the head up a little bit and push the head away from the rim to prevent the rim or the head from dragging on the rim and damaging it. Next, I will need the tire spoon. This is a tire spoon. Remember, the tire spoon has a sharp curve and it has a shallow curve. We're always going to use the shallow curve, and the curve will face away from the rim. So when we set it in like this, this will be up against the rim, and this side will be facing away from the rim. And we're going to put it right on the duck's bill. So we're going to set it on there like so. Now, in order to get the tire off, the rim has a drop center. The drop center of the rim should be facing up. If the drop center is on the back side of the rim, then we would actually mount the rim upside down and take it off that way. This is where this extra arm is going to come in, because we need to push down on it to get it into the drop center. And the lower profile the tire is, the harder it is to do that. So we'll go ahead and place this arm opposite of the duck, and we're going to push down so it goes into the drop center. Once it goes into the drop center, I then can pull the arm over, hold it, because it will spring up and get you. Once I do that, I can lift the arm out of the way, and I'm going to rotate the table while I'm holding the bar. Once it gets about halfway, you can remove the bar out of the way. And then we have removed the upper bead. If it's a larger tire or you cannot pick it up, you can use the extra man lift to go down underneath the tire and then use it to pick the tire up to allow you to do the next step. If it's a smaller tire or you're a stronger person, well, you can just manhandle it. We're then going to do the same thing. We're going to place the bar over the bill of the duck with the curve facing out. We're going to get this arm out of the way. We're going to set it down so it touches the rim. And then I'm going to pick up on the bar and the tire at the same time and push the bar down. And then I will rotate the table. Once the bar becomes free, go ahead and remove the bar and then finish taking the tire off. Once I've removed the tire from the rim, I will tilt the head back, and that allows me to get the rim and tire separated from each other. The next step would be to install the tire. First, I'm going to look on the tire and see if I have any dots. They could be several different color dots. The only ones we're concerned with are red dots or yellow dots. The red dot takes priority. So if you have a yellow and a red, we're going to ignore the yellow and only use the red. And that will go where the valve stem is. If it only has a yellow dot, then we are going to install the yellow dot where the valve stem is. The yellow and the red dot just indicate the heavy spot of the tire and the high spot of the tire. If it just has other colored dots, ignore them. You can mount it any position on the rim. Make sure if it's a directional tire, and that's a tire that'll have an arrow on it or indicate direction, that you place the directions according to which side of the car you're going to put it on. The tire will not work well if it's running backwards. If it is a non-directional tire like this one, then we can mount either side up. If it has a white wall or a black wall side, make sure you ask the customer which they want, because some people really hate white walls, and if you mount the tire with the white walls on the outside, they're going to want you to redo the job. So if we need to replace the valve stem, we would go ahead and replace the valve stem at this time. It could be a metal valve stem or a rubber one, and we would then remove it. This one has a metal one, so we'd use a socket and a wrench or to take this out. We will do a rubber valve stem in a little bit. In order to get the rim or the tire back on the rim, we need to lubricate the bead to help it slide on. There's two types of lubricants. There's a paste and a liquid. I prefer the paste because if I drop it, it makes less of a mess. And we are going to lubricate the bead on both sides. We'll put a whole ton of it on there because it will ooze out and make a mess a little bit of the rim. But you want enough of a coating so that it will slide easily. And then we're going to go ahead and do the inside bead as well. And also we want to do the rim edge. So we're going to take our brush, hold it up against the side of the rim, and spin the table, or you can just wipe it on, whichever makes you happy. When I get to the other side, I can go ahead and finish up lubricating my bead on this side, and then go back to doing that. Make sure you do the bottom bead as well. We're going to go down here and do this. This is going to allow the tire to slide on more easy, and it's going to prevent us from damaging the tire or the rim. Once I have it lubricated, I'm now ready to install the tire. So I'm going to take the tire, make sure that the correct side's up, and set it over the rim like so. And then I'm going to bring the head back in. Then I'm going to place the bead of the tire over the the tail of the duck and under the head of the duck. And I'm going to go ahead and rotate it a little bit. All right. Once I see that it's in the correct position, I can install the bottom bead. The bottom bead is the easy one to install. Now I have the bottom bead installed. I'm going to go ahead and put the top bead over the head of the duck or over the tail and under the head. And I'm going to bring in my extra man assist to keep it in the drop center while I'm installing the rim. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of pressure on it. And then as I rotate it, I'm going to put a little extra pressure on this as it starts to grab. So I'm going to go ahead and push down and rotate. And sometimes it'll slip on the tire because of the soap. That happens. Change the position of the head you're using, and then go ahead and go again. Now, it is important that you have a large gap in here, so you're forcing the edge of the tire into the drop center. If it's not in the drop center, it is impossible to mount the tire. The tire is actually bigger than the flange and we cannot stretch it. So if you don't have this type of machine, you need to push down with both hands while you're rotating the table to make sure you keep the upper bead in the drop center. When using this machine, keep your arm out of this triangle. If you put your hand in here, this is going to close up and it could cause some serious damage. So we're going to go ahead and continue rotating the tire. And it is now installed. So go ahead and remove your arm and go ahead and unlock the duck head. So it lifts up out of the way, and then tilt it backwards so you don't run your head into it. Now, if you're inside clamping a rim, at this point we would attach the air nozzle. We would push the pedal all the way to the floor. Then we would bring it part way up to inflate the tire. But being that we're grabbing the rim from the outside, we want to remove the rim from the machine first, because if the bead sits while the jaws are hooked on it, you'll never get the rim off. So we're going to go ahead and unlock the head, pick the rim up, then put the head all the way back in. And then when the bead seats, the tire could jump. So to prevent that from happening and causing an injury, we are going to replace our centering adapter. And we're going to put a little bit of pressure on the head to keep that from happening. I am then going to attach my air nozzle. And when I inflate it, I want to make sure that I don't go over about 35 pounds during beading and never exceed 50 pounds with this machine. So I'm going to go ahead and you'll hear the beads seat. Don't put your fingers between the rim and the bead. If this tire seats with your finger in there, the only way to get your finger back out is by using the bead breaking tool, and that's probably going to hurt. So we're going to go ahead and give it air and let both beads seat. There's the first one, and there's the second one. Once I have them seated, I can go ahead and reinstall the valve core. If you take the valve core and we place it in the tool like so, I can then use my finger to hold it in place. Lift this arm out of the way to make your life easier. And then you're going to remove the line and insert the valve cord in one motion. If you don't do it fast enough, there is a chance on some wheels that the tire will debead itself, and then you have to repeat that other step. At this point, I would go ahead and air up the tire to the specification found on the door jamb, and then we would be ready to balance the tire. Just don't forget to put the valve cap back on and make sure you don't lose your center cap. If you're not going to balance them right away, then it would be a good idea to replace the center cap on the rim so that we don't lose them. And that is how you mount a tire using the EHP System 5.